So thanks so much, everybody, for your engagement and interest in this topic. As I mentioned there, we're hopeful that this, as part of some of our other events, will become an annual series. So we do want to hear your stories, like what Dale had shared, any other strategies and successful case studies that you've been going through. Also, we've made these events free for our members at just a minor cost for guests, and in lieu of we over the last couple of years of having to go virtual, have uh, recommended or hope that you'd make a donation in lieu of, if you're able to a charity or cause that's meaningful to you and us. The one that we did last year was for the Mustard Seed Food Banks and raised a phenomenal amount. I think over 7,000 or so. Um,
8,900.
8,900. I knew it was over 7,000, over 8,000, 8,900. And then the one that we've been doing for this year is the Victoria Women's Transition House. And I will attach the link here for anyone. So in lieu of, if you are able to, it would be remarkable if you could make a donation. And we understand that might not be possible for everyone, but do if you can. That's greatly appreciated. And again, thank you to our sponsors. We couldn't make these events happen as cost effective, low cost for you guys. So that's why that donation is recommended. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. And we're really fortunate to have Paul here with us today. He's, as I was reaching out to him, he was just pleasantly surprised, as he had done some work already with Advocates, and over the last few years spearheading some collaboration with Advocates nationally. And so it was great that we were able to team up for this event today and kick off our first event focused on this space. So Paul Nazareth is a leader in Canada's philanthropic sector with over 18 years experience in planned giving. Now Vice President, Education and Development at the Canadian Association of Gift Planners, he has most recently been VP at the Charity Canada Helps, as they scaled in donations to now over 160 million a year. He has been a philanthropic advisor with Scotia Wealth and spent over a decade with charities like the University of Toronto and the 230 churches of the Catholic Church of Greater Toronto. Paul is on the board of several charities, teaches with the postgraduate fundraising program at Georgian College, is chair of the advisory board at the Humber College Postgraduate Fundraising Program, a speaker with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, a national faculty instructor with CAGPA, and writes on philanthropy for a variety of publications. In 2016, Paul was named as a friend of CAGP and recognizing the top planned giving professionals in all of Canada. So Paul, thank you so much for having the time to spend with us today. And we have a great audience, of course, very engaged. So thank you so much. I'll pass it over to you.
Yay, wonderful. Thanks so much, Philip. And to everyone with us today, just so you know, as well as always, because it's always the first question, you're going to get a copy of my deck. And one of the things I always mention, a lot of resources and books and studies, those are all in the deck. I actually have about 4 or 5 pages of links, so they're easy to find, not to worry. Please also put questions in the chat. I keep an eye on it while I'm speaking. Really helpful for me and us to have this more of a discussion than just a traditional lecture. So let's jump in, because wonderfully enough, there's never been a better time than right now to incorporate philanthropy into your business, as Dr. Funk has shared, but some insights we can bring as the Canadian Association of Gift Planners. Again, a lot of organizations and peers don't know that we were an organization that was created 30 years ago to be the bridge between traditional fundraising in the world of charity and the world of financial, tax, and estate planning. And one of the reasons why this bridge is needed so badly is because, in fact, as much as people and Canadians are generous, one of the challenges is that most people give because they're asked. And one of the things that is quite different than just fundraising and generosity is the nature of philanthropy that is reactive. So many of your clients are giving because they're asked, not because they have a deeper connection into meaning and where money meets that meaning. You know, one of our challenges in the charitable sector is we have not had a lot of data into this for many years. And 2 or 3 years ago, we got one of the massive data dumps we've ever had from Imagine Canada, one of the organizations that represents the sector, and the Rita Hall Foundation out of the Governor General's office. And the 30 years of giving report helped us to fill in some of the narratives as both charities and advisors to understand the needs of generous Canadians and our clients. And one of the more interesting ones that was there was this really odd trend in charitable giving. What this graph represents, and we now have this data all the way up to 2020, is that although charitable giving has been going up, in fact, right before the pandemic, we had a jump in giving from $16.4 billion to $18 billion in 2018-19. And that was right before the pandemic. So more money being given, but by less people. This is the StatsCan tax filer numbers of how many people are actually claiming their receipts. 85% of Canadians say that they give, and only 20% in change of households actually use their receipts. So from a tax receiving perspective, more money being given by less people. And of course, how much do they even understand of what are the benefits around this? You're going to hear from me today. And again, Dr. Funk's research has really shown this, that great philanthropy is a constant tension between the head and the heart. And unfortunately, fundraising and philanthropy has been motivated by just the heart for a very long time. And it certainly could benefit from a little bit more strategy from the head. And that's what we represent to do, is bring strategy to giving. Case in point, I'm not sure if anybody knows, feel free to throw it in the chat. What was the #1 charity given to in the pandemic? The #1 charity given to in the pandemic was food banks. And why? Because that was the Maslow's hierarchy of needs charitable element that most people can really get their heads around. When in fact, what was one of the greatest needs, and again, we get this data from our community foundation sector, who has been collecting this data on charitable need alongside institutions like United Way, et cetera, on the difference between what people want to give to because they care and what people know they need to give to because the need is there. Case in point, one of the biggest needs in the pandemic that was not given to was women in domestic violence. Case in point, your gift today to the Women's Transition House is seeing the difference. And this is what activated, educated philanthropic advisors can do, is see the need, do the homework, do the research to help their clients stay informed on the charities and causes they care about, but also to be an effective advisor to understand what the need is in the communities that you're trying to represent. This is an interesting graph from that 30 years of giving report on why Canadians give. And actually, one of the more interesting things we got from this data was, for the first time ever, a demographic breakdown. So why do Canadians give? #1 reason is because they care for those in need. Again, food banks, right? They care for those in need. And the second is belief in a cause. Now, much to our sadness at the Canadian Association of Gift Planners, which is very much a tax-motivated community, guess what people don't care about? Taxes. Because taxes on this data are dead last, not second or third, dead last. This is a very frustrating thing for us because, in fact, we have been a part of developing the income tax system to favor charitable giving. And in fact, Canada has the single most generous charitable tax system in the Western world. But our challenge is nobody knows and nobody cares. They just want to help. It's a reminder for us as advisors. And again, you've heard my own background, 20 years in the sector, working for charities large and small, as well as being an advisor myself in a wealth management firm and trust company, understanding that people want to help. But you as an advisor can help them more when you bridge that world of head and heart and bring their care for those in need connected to the incredible and aggressive tax credit opportunities we have in Canada. But to understand the demographic opportunity, and I'm not going to talk about the wealth transfer because we spend how much time talking about the wealth transfer. One of the things to notice here is who does care the most about taxes. Look at that little orange line right at the bottom. And it's Canadians over 75. And why? Because they hold more of their personal wealth in assets, not cash. Let me tell you, the charitable sector is addicted to cash. They only ever ask for cash. In fact, most organizations don't even accept other methods of giving. If you ask your local cat shelter if they take publicly listed securities, which is the single best tax method of giving in Canada, most of them will say no. If you ask your local food bank and a lot of grassroots organizations, they don't know about these opportunities and they don't employ them, which is fine because that's their decision. But if you have a client that wants to give smarter and able to do more, and that's their favorite charity, you do have a problem. We'll talk about how to solve that problem. The second reason why now is the most important time and valuable time to really integrate this into your business is because the actual products other than cash are finally starting to get aligned. Here's a case study. This was in last weekend's Globe and Mail. In the business section, from our colleague Tim Sesnick in the Globe, Jamie Gollenbeck in the Post, we have a number of helpful advisors who write about strategic giving, not just generosity. Generosity is wonderful, but when it comes to being empowered to do more, here's an incredible case study in gifts of life insurance. As many of you know, we use life insurance for wealth protection, but we could be using it in an incredibly powerful way for charitable giving. Just as a quick case study, many Canadians have put a gift in their will. Say you have a client who's put a $100,000 gift in their will. But if they pull that out today, and again, so many Canadians are going through life and liquidity events, selling a business, they could put that $100,000 into a policy that would result in a $250,000 payout. Now they can do more. But as we know as well with life insurance policies and the two ways they work, although they could name the charity as a beneficiary, and when they pass away, the funds will go to charity, the estate will get a receipt. But if the charity is the owner of the policy, now the premiums are considered a charitable donation. So they could be making that one-time payment to create this $250,000 payout of $100,000. And if they give it to the charity, then they will get a receipt. And as we know in Canada, when you give above $200, you're getting back about half. And that $100,000 policy is now costing them only $50,000. But they could also use publicly listed securities to transfer to that charity to pay for the policy. Now you're getting a receipt and about half back, and you're eliminating the capital gains. You're paying $30,000, $40,000 to create $250,000 of impact. That's why a product like life insurance matters. But here is the fatal flaw. Charities are not informed, they're not advisors, nor are they licensed to sell life insurance. And that's why we need you. We've just finished a 2-year project in collaboration with communities like Advocates, like KLU, several insurance companies, and several advisors from our community to actually remove the roadblocks around specifically gifts of life insurance. Charitable bequests are going like gangbusters. Publicly traded securities, really big at this time of year. But this great opportunity in life insurance finally unpacked in this set of guidelines that we have cleared through compliance offices, the regulators, for your clients, for yourself, and as well to help the many charities that don't know about this. Do you know that almost 80% of donated in dollars in Canada goes to only 2% of charities? And you know who they are: hospitals, universities, big organizations. And there's 85,000 grassroots organizations like your colleagues at the Women's Transition Center, who could do great work here in your community. The funny thing about the pandemic was it made the world really small. And people finally started asking, clients finally started asking, why am I sending my money to a healthcare institution halfway across the country? Why? Because their grandma asked on Facebook. People give because they're asked, but they don't do the work of the head and heart to say, what is the meaning behind this money? And am I using the best strategies to activate it? And that's through you. Again, this just came out at the beginning of this week, the STEP Global Report on the Needs of Modern Families. And although it's not certainly top of the list, Philanthropy finally broke into the responses from high net worth, and this particular one is with high net worth and ultra high net worth families, as we hear from communities like STEP, like Family Enterprise, like Advocates, philanthropy is now part of the business. And as much as charitable bequests and stocks and securities are the more popular vehicles, We are dealing now with a huge opportunity around donor advised funds, public foundations. And the challenge is that these transactions start ineffectively with a conversation of math. Just the tax benefits, just the giving benefits. How do we go deeper into where money meets meetings? Again, thanks, Philip, for sharing. Indeed, all of my reports and resources are in there. This is the single most largest trend in North America right now, is public foundation collaboration with advisors and clients. The movement is called donor advised funds, but let me just break down the jargon here. They're nothing more than a fund in a public foundation. You know these public foundations, like the Victoria Foundation, the Nanaimo Foundation. The United Way is a public foundation that gathers money and grants it out. There are now more of these foundations that are aligned with your practice as an advisor in financial, tax, and estate planning to help your clients make these plans and move money in the ways that they want. The old school way was to incorporate private foundations. The new school way is for money to be more fluid through donor advised funds. And again, the old way was to endowment and think about perpetuity and forever, when we have just experienced the rainiest day in the last 100 years, literally raining in your community. I'm supposed to be in Nanaimo and Abbotsford at the start of the year, and we are watching to see the response. Again, the challenge is the public is not informed. The largest campaign right now in the BC Interior is tied to GoFundMe, which is not a charity. Those are not donations. They will not be receipted, and they are not transparently managed. Whereas our colleagues at the community foundations right across the BC Interior are collecting the exact same funds, but will manage them in a fiduciary, transparent, and accountable way. If you're not partnering with these foundations as you build out the needs of your clients, this is the biggest boat you may be missing. And why? Well, show us the money. We're lucky that in Canada, we actually have the data. You know, in the United States, the largest charity in the entire USA is Fidelity Investments, bigger than the entire United Way added up. And why? Because of these donor advised funds. This is a methodology born in Canada only 15 years ago, again, using public foundations for client planning. And in those 15 years, it has amassed almost $4 or $5 billion. This number over here, which is around $6 billion in 2021, includes community foundation money, the traditional charitable sector, but the rest of it is managed by advisors like yourself. And again, if you allow your clients to only give to who they know, they will not expand to the needs that they may not understand, that will go deeper with them in their relationship with you. This is powerful stuff. Again, this message I hope that you hear is that you are a needed component in this algorithm. Because even when I was in wealth management and I asked my team to tell me about the biggest transactions and the biggest donations we facilitated, which with my team at the time was average donations of $1 million to 10, and we've done $100 million giving plans. But when did that money change hands? Here's the list of the motivators. Can you see what's not on that list? Fundraising. Guess what? Your clients' needs are not going to line up with their favorite charities, capital campaign, golf tournament, gala dinner. Those things are community engagement, but they're not necessarily true philanthropy. Your clients' motivations need to be respected, supported, and there needs to be a plan created. And when it comes to the heart, charitable sector's there. But when it comes to the head, financial, tax, estate planning, that's you. The sector is not licensed, is not able to do it, is not able to see the full portfolio, to bring in philanthropy into a holistic plan. And that's your superpower. Again, you know this. I know some of these names of who's with us today. I know you've facilitated charitable donations on behalf of clients. And one of the challenges too is there's a lot of motivations behind giving, not just generosity. One of the most messed up ones, grief. You know, people make bad decisions when they're grieving. And guess what? Charitable giving is one of those too. When we look at memorials, I mean, heck, look at the obituaries. And you see how many people include charitable giving in their obituaries. That was never their story. Who writes obituaries? Not the individuals, their kids. So when we even break down the giving habits of obituary or tribute and memorial giving in Canada, only two charities benefit: the place the person passed away at, a hospital or hospice, and the thing they passed away of, a disease-based organization. But the full spectrum. And again, you know the lives of your clients. They got season tickets to sit in pews of those churches. You know, faith is the number one method and methodology around giving, and people feel very strongly towards it. Have you ever seen someone's church, mosque, or synagogue in an obituary? No. They're on boards. They volunteer how many days a week with organizations? Has their story been told, both in their giving and volunteering, but also in their donations? I'm going to give you a lot of resources as part of this presentation, so you can chop this up, share it with colleagues, go as deep as you want to go. But again, the moment is now, because we've never had more resources and insight here in Canada. These are Canadian books around philanthropy. 15, 20 years ago, the only thing we ever knew about philanthropy came from the Rockefellers and American culture. And we know we have a vastly different culture, not just a different culture in Canada, but in the geography of this country. We know that's a thing since Confederation, and your clients' giving needs and priorities need to be respected as part of that. The good news as well is that we are finally starting to get to scale. Again, Dr. Funk has worked with the CEO of my organization, CAGP, who often says, if you want to make change, think big, start small, scale up. We started as a community of chapters, of which there is one on Vancouver Island, but you may have heard of our 17-year campaign called Leave a Legacy. It was a wonderful campaign when it started. As time went on, it's kind of devolved into just really basic advertising. If you've ever seen a lot of these Leave a Legacy publications, it's just a whole bunch of charity logos with the words Leave a Legacy. But why? We're going to dive deeper into the why with our national campaign called Willpower. Piloted last year, launched nationally this year. We have several hundred charities on the island who are participating in this social psychology campaign. The work behind it is to normalize generosity in the way that it was many years ago in Canada, when religion and faith was much more prevalent in society. Today, as we are a more secular society, we want to make sure that the DNA of generosity is still being supported through charitable giving and philanthropy. So before we launched this national program, we actually did an incredible study, finally getting some new data with Environics. Many of you will know the national company that does data here in Canada. But for our colleagues in Advocates and STEP, to clarify a few more things. As usual, the numbers came back. Still, about half of Canada has a will. But we're asking the wrong question to the wrong group of people. How many Canadians have a will? About half. Cool. No, wait. How many Canadians 80 plus have a will? It's almost 90%. So a lot of what charities are doing these generic will planning events, sending out will planning kits for your clients, their donors. That's the old way. And the new way is to talk about the actual gifts and do the planning work together. With our colleagues in financial planning, tax, and estate planning, again, the data here shows us 86% of Canadians know they can do it, 60% and change want to do it. How many actually do it? How many Canadians put a gift in their will? Only 5%. And so you'll get a copy of this report and all that data, some interesting insights into financial and estate planning. But this is our goal. This is year one. 5% of Canadians leave a gift in a will. We are endeavoring to move that to about 8.5 in the next 10 years, which represents about $40 billion. Thank you, Janet, for a question here and sharing it with the group too. That although people tend to not report their charitable donations, is there work being done behind the scenes to have equal tax credits available for political donations and charitable giving? And I want to share with you, Janet, very explicitly, absolutely not. The political donation system and the charitable donation system for a long time have been two separate solitudes. And again, that's a lot of what our organization does. the focus of the benefits we've been advocating for a good 10 years or so. And you'll probably see it in national and provincial papers, because that's one of the methods we use to advocate, is two things: the elimination of capital gains on donation of private securities, because we were very much part of the public securities capital gains elimination, and the gains elimination on donations of real estate. And what are we talking about there? We know we're talking about the big transition of cottages, secondary properties, high capital gains. And if people donate as part of that, we want them to benefit, but also be motivated to give. Great. A couple questions coming in here. Promoting giving. Yes, indeed. Yes. So I'll address that in a little bit about how you as an advisor can get connected with this. So this campaign, Willpower, rolling out across the country, billboards off highways, radio, print, television. Although I'll tell you, now that we are almost through our first cycle, what are the most effective things, as we know? Digital and social media. A billboard has less, and we're tracking the clicks. If you go to willpower.ca right now, you can see the concept of generosity, a bequest in a will, being able to search charities, but our goal is to funnel the actual clients to advisors who can help them make a will. And what's been more effective than billboards? 5-second ads on Facebook, on YouTube, and Google search engine optimization. So this is kind of that thing. And again, what's the message here? You know, in Canada, that when you give through your will, you can use 100% of your charitable tax credits in the terminal return year before death against all of your income tax, against 100% of your income tax. So a gift well planned doesn't mean you got to choose between your family and your heirs or charity. It's not an either or. And you can read between the lines here and see what we're saying is, to those of Canadians with families, you can have your cake and eat it too. But of course, remember, we're also dealing with the single largest amount of Canadians with the least amount of kids in our history. So there's a whole bunch of Canadians without traditional heirs who will be considering estate giving through their will or their financial or tax plan more than ever before. And again, as we partner with advocates, KLU, STEP, Family Enterprise, we hear this more and more. This is one of the most critical things as you do your planning as an activated advisor. Again, many of you know the math. You know about the capital gains elimination. You know about the opportunities through insurance and estates. But one of the things that we're hearing from both advisors and their clients is that there isn't an understanding of need. Again, most Canadians give to only a few charities because they are asked. My old team at Canada Helps, many people will know this charity, actually created by 3 computer engineers who were teenagers in the late 90s, early 2000s, who saw that charities needed to embrace technology, and they did not and would not. I'm proud to tell you that in the pandemic, when all face-to-face fundraising was shut down, guess what? Online giving became the spare tire of philanthropy. And in fact, Canada Helps this year will be processing $500 million in cash. And I want to tell you, as much as that's wonderful, it's also inefficient. You know, I took a phone call in 2015 from a guy who was trying to make $1 million donation to 10 charities on his credit card through our platform. And I spent a ton of time begging this guy to say, please don't make this donation on your credit card. Please talk to your advisor, because giving securities and, you know, giving smart will benefit you a lot more. Now, granted, at the time he told me, listen, kid, I want my air miles. So a reminder too about people's donations, there's many motivations and we need to understand them. We turn to our colleagues at the Community Foundation movement in a lot of ways because they represent one of the most neutral aspects of partnering with you as an advisor to really go deep into the plan. They're one of the biggest outfits next to the United Way who's creating data, hyper local data around need, not just BC, not just the island, but every different postal code on the island. What is the need? What is the civic discourse, the economic numbers, the democratic numbers? This whole conversation they're leading is one of the most robust in Canada and in the world. In the pandemic, we heard clients saying, am I going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? And then they look to the community. And I want to tell you, in a lot of cases, if they weren't getting advice from their advisor or they weren't going to look for it, they would just give what they already gave. And in a lot of cases, that's not where the need is. We also know that a lot of the traditional methods of generosity are ineffective after 100 years of doing it. Food banks, as much as we value them and respect them, will not create food security in Canada. They focus mostly on poverty, when in fact, we are also trying to focus on food health for all. Again, how many people do we know in the middle class who are unhealthy as all heck because they eat McDonald's more than they do anything that's on the Canada Food Guide? That's justice and access for all. And this is what your clients want to know. And of course, if you're providing that kind of advice, they're going to see you as the person who can do more, not just in philanthropy, but again, financial, tax, estate, succession, all of it. I'm going to give you some links to different reports and resources here on the island and in Canada, but truly turning to these foundations, Victoria being one of the most robust partners in the whole country. Most people don't know that the person who works with advisors like yourself at the Victoria Foundation is one of Canada's most advanced gift planners. She is faculty for us. She was in a trust company years ago. You've got incredible professionals on the island. Again, for those local communities, I'm looking forward to in the new year visiting with the Nanaimo Foundation, doing a bit more deep education around tax giving for individuals and advisors. But these are the reports you can turn to say, what is the need? Not just around poverty, around gender justice, social justice, reconciliation, but yes, the economy, democracy, they have all that data in these reports. And when you have a client that says, how can I give? And again, head and heart balance, if they're given $2,000, it's going to be more about heart. But if they're given 2 million, you bet they're going to have an investor mindset. So they're going to want to know, tell me who's doing it, who's doing it well. Where can my investments bear the most fruit, have the most impact? There is no better data source for local knowledge to that answer than these reports. Also, you kind of spoiled on the island because there's a whole bunch of weirdo geniuses hanging out there. This is a best-selling book by Globe and Mail bestseller Lindsay Green. She writes for a number of different publications on retirement, financial wealth in Canada, and she's written this incredible book on purpose. And in it, and it's one of the only non-math reads. So again, if you want to learn to understand, and of course, if you don't like the math of all of this, which it can often get confusing, and certainly your clients don't want to read about taxable benefits, this book is a Canadian bestseller on where money meets meaning. Lindsay Green is from the island. So this is a great kind of piece of resource. We keep sending everybody to books written by all these quote unquote philanthropists. Let me tell you, when you dive into the data in this country, more giving is done by regular people than what we see in the States as the Bezoses and all of those different philanthropists in Canada. Regular everyday people, your clients are the ones who make more of a difference. Let me give you a quick psychological tip here. Asking them if they want to give is the question we've heard from advisors doesn't work, but having conversations of meaning. Not do you want to leave a gift in your will, but the question is, how do you want to be remembered? Because again, for many people, a will is a testament, is a story, a life story told in money. And for better or for worse, kids and heirs make a lot of assumptions about that money. So if you want to look at a great way to think about that, this is a really good one. And then lastly, our communities are finally more deeply connected. Again, we've been active for the past 30 years in Canada, looking to change everything from income tax policy, opportunities to give, and advance that together with many advisors. But now advocates and CGP are aligned. One of the resource pieces I'm going to give you is some research called What Canadian Donors Want, your clients who are giving. And one of them was an interesting insight to say more Canadians are finally wrapping their heads around non-cash gifts. Funny enough, older Canadians, wills and securities, gifts of registered funds and life insurance, yes. Younger generations are starting to ask questions about cryptocurrency and other methods of donation, to which we write about and again advocate for better tax policy. But one of the ones that kind of freaked out our colleagues at the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the largest fundraising network in the world, as they did their Canadian study was, oh no, they called us up and said, you asked us to ask this question, and it said here that Canadians don't trust charities. And we said, yeah, they don't trust charities to do their financial, tax, and estate planning. Why would they? We're not licensed. That's not what we do. And we need to work with advisors on it. So we've got the current 2021 data to hear from Canadians that they wanted to hear this from their advisor. And that's what we're doing. We exist to be that bridge between all of these different communities to which we know many of you belong. And again, from Advocates, we finally made this partnership. Now, Dr. Funk showed you the Doing Good for Business report. This was what was before it, produced this really helpful 6-page guide, the Philanthropic Conversation. You're going to get a link to that from my presentation. Really handy, easy way to start the conversation. And you know through your work and know your client and compliance, going deeper to find out what you need to. As Dr. Funk shared, we asked advisors, are you asking your clients about giving? And they said yes. Then we asked Canadians, is your advisor asking you? And they said no. That's what Doing Good for Business was all about. We did our first profile in 2018 to show the benefits of incorporating it into your business that are not warm and fuzzy. This is product, this is profit, this is assets under management. We need your help to grow your business through philanthropy, but empower it as part of the process. In 2022, if this is not the edge you have, it will be the wedge another advisor uses to get that next generation of business, especially when we talk about family foundation, succession, well, you know, charitable giving is tied to that too. We are now in 2021 an official partner program of Advocates. As Philip shared, this has been a long road for us, an exciting road, which means our professional development credits and a lot of other things are now aligned, easier for you because it's all in-house. So we encourage you to take advantage of a lot more of the offerings you're going to see. First and foremost, Canada's new designation in philanthropy. Many people don't know about it yet. We launched it in 2018, and it's called the Mfap, Master Financial Advisor in Philanthropy. It is a full now program with Advocates through our colleagues at the Knowledge Bureau. It lines up with all of your professional development credits. We've already got almost 200 advisors in the past few years to hold this designation. We have a whole bunch by the end of the year that are doing it right now because it's one of the only fully on-demand online programs. So it's done online through this platform. There are 3 courses, takes about 30 hours on average. An affordable professional development opportunity where in these courses, we go deeper, not just on, again, the head stuff, the compliance, the tax, the estate planning benefits, we do that, but we also give you templates and methodologies for that conversation of the heart, how to start the philanthropic conversation, a couple of templates on how to work with clients around it, but also explaining a bit of the landscape of the charitable sector, which is crazy confusing. What's the difference between the BC Cancer Society and the Canadian Cancer Society, the Cancer Research Society? There's 181 charities with cancer in the title. You think your clients are confused, right? This is where you can bring clarity, impact, and meaning in the space. Wonderful. And again, the MFAP is one of those. But again, Advocates, one of the other things that we're pioneering together is a course, a one-day course that you'll see come to BC, God willing, next year. But the MFAP is one of the fastest ways to get engaged in this. And again, we're going to be highlighting you as an advisor if you hold this designation, because we need the public to engage advisors in this space. Because again, if it's just the heart, it's not as effective. When you activate the head and the heart, we can do more together. We have a local chapter. Again, you know, people often will connect with me on this. Let me tell you, the knowledge is on the ground, is in the community. You happen to host some of the most smarty pants advisors and charitable gift planners in the country here on the island. So you'll get a link at the beginning of my presentation to the Vancouver Island chapter of the Canadian Association of Gift Planners, which in fact, an Advocates member is currently one of the leaders of. One of our colleagues, Rod Abbott, and other advisors are part of it. So you'll get a link to that. We encourage you to be part of this community. We need you as part of this community to bring together the effectiveness of this strategy. It will not be effective without you. As together with advocates, we have now created a professional development roadmap. If you're thinking about how you're going to invest your time and money in the next couple of years, if you want to go deeper into this, we've done our best to make it easy. I hope there's some questions and conversation, but in the end, everyone, every Canadian is sitting on a dream to help the lives of others. We just don't call them philanthropists because they do it in a whole bunch of ways. Your clients, especially business owners, especially problem solvers, they're the ones who come up with great solutions, great ideas that sometimes may break the mold. Sometimes traditional charities may not like. Again, I was involved with a client who was making a gift here on the island, and it was the first time they had ever created a scholarship, in this particular case, front end 6 figures, back end 7 figures, that didn't live at an institution. This is revolution, creating a scholarship that doesn't live at a university, hospital, or college. We know the future of Canada's economic success is flexibility, is ongoing education, professional development, so it doesn't have to be done in the old way. And the good news is we don't have to subscribe to that in charitable giving either. But if it's going to be done well, that's where we need you. So again, the CAGP Foundation, you'll see us putting out more data. We're the ones bothering StatsCan to understand things like how many publicly listed securities are changing hands. What's the difference in mutual funds, publicly traded stocks, bonds? We don't have that data. How many life insurance policies are in force from a charitable perspective? How much money changes hands from not just the charity T3010 data, but the terminal return data from StatsCan? That kind of data costs money. We've incorporated a foundation. We're going to go get it. We hope that you'll join us. We hope that you'll join us as a member, as a participant, as an MFAP. You've helped your clients create success. We hope to partner with you to help them find that significance they seek very often in the different ages and stages of life. So thanks for the questions in the chat. I'll stop now. Again, I'll let you see you got all these links. They're all there, not to worry. But hope we can chat about this, and thank you too for having me.
Thanks so much, Paul. That was wonderful, right to the point, and so many facts. So people were asking about sharing of the slides and content and material. And as I mentioned about Dr. Carla Funk's introduction, you guys have been so open about access and connectivity. So I'm sure people can even follow up directly for some future comments down the road. We're also very happy to have partnered with you today and helping support by your speaking fee in lieu of this donation towards CAGP and the work that you guys are doing on this research, which helps arm us, help support our clients as we're going down the road. I know our first discussion was kind of around, well, people aren't claiming their tax receipts. Do they not realize that they could actually just be donating more if they don't want those credits and all these kind of things? So there's great conversations to have, and I'm glad of the work that you guys have been doing. There was that question though on the change of policy, especially for BC advisors around the BC Insurance Council, putting a bit more restrictions on how publicly we can be promoting the use of insurance with charitable gifting and things like that. Do you have any comments on that, or just where that stands, how much we can do publicly and things?
So we were deeply involved in that particular engagement. Our organization, again, our kind of experts come really from your community. You know, people like Margaret Mason with Norton Rose, one of the most well-known charity lawyers in Canada. Those are the experts we turn to. We put out position papers on it. We engaged the regulator, and we actually had a favorable result in which they did back off and say, here's the situations in which this is a product that we support. Again, all they were ever really talking about is how is it marketed? If it is sold as a product versus part of a charitable giving strategy, that was what they were concerned about. And all of us are always concerned about the commoditization of charitable giving. Schemes, arrangements, quid pro quos. The revenue agency says anything in which one thing causes another is not voluntary, and we will not allow that receipt. So actually, great point. This is exactly why I said I'll send the deck after. I will include our back and forth with the regulator in our list of links, but we are in a positive position to promote gifts of life insurance.
Great. Any other comments just before we
I have
catch?
one sent directly to me here
Okay.
about just what you mentioned about the tax receipts. And again,
Okay.
do people know about this benefit? Again, in Canada, province to province, we've cleared this with CPA to be able to say when you give over 200 in Canada, you get back about half. And we train charities to always say, you need to talk to a proper advisor about this gift, especially when we get over the 5, 6, 7 figures. This should be part of your financial tax and estate plan. But does the average Canadian know about charitable benefits and tax credits? Truly, no. And it's brutal because one of the effects of that is right now nobody under 40 has any idea about what a tax receipt is, how to use it, and what it's for. And as a result, Canadians under 40 and especially under 30 have kind of opted out of the entire charitable giving system. More people are giving to GoFundMe than they are to traditional charities because GoFundMe and digital and social media is frankly better at storytelling than your average charity. That's one of our great challenges. Again, it's the reason why Canada Helps exists, to create that democratic parity of technology between organizations that are small and big. Again, the platform Canada Helps, community foundations, this is your partner as an advisor to facilitate these gifts of financial assets, securities, etc. Just know that there's always an option. And again, what's the local knowledge on this? That's our local Vancouver Island chapter that will give you a connection to.
Great, Paul. Just wonderful. All of our speakers today, the work that you guys are doing in the community, we hope this is just a tipping point, and we'll keep kind of connecting with you, throughout the year. But valuable case studies, what's working, and then we hope that we can tap you on the shoulder again for next year and check in and kind of see an update on how things have gone. So, thanks so much for being with us today, and thank you, everyone.